Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation with some food for thought. Congress may be giving itself a raise. People are outraged. However, I say, good. Give yourselves a raise, but on one condition. Now, I get why people don't like the move by Congress. As a body, judged by productivity, especially as a function of collaboration, they underperform dramatically. Now, right now, there is yet another government shutdown looming Friday. And instead of passing even their pathetic excuse of brinksmanship that they do almost on a regular basis now, which is called a continuing resolution or a temporary funding measure to just get you through a short period, right? They're not even going to do that to end the year. Meaning, the Trumplican majority have created a big, fat spending package. So much for cutting back. And almost all of it are things that should have been done way sooner. Here's just a taste. $100 billion in disaster aid, for those folks specifically in North Carolina living in tents. Only now they decided to do it. $500 million in child care, aid for farmers, criminalizing deep fake porn. Now, that's something that they really should have done a real long time ago. Francis Scott Key Bridge funding, allowing for the Washington Commanders to move their stadium to D.C. I don't know why that's a priority. But they do all this instead of doing the minimum, which is to just keep it going until the new Congress comes in. And they did so against the wishes of the almighty Musk, who said not to pass any bills until Trump takes office. And even Trump just threatened primaries for any Republican who votes for the spending deal. That's impressive, given, what we know of President Trump is he likes spending. He added $8 trillion to the national debt, and even he doesn't like this. Here's the main point. No one with Congress's job approval rating, which is like in the mid-teens, maybe high teens, depends on the poll, nobody like that gets a raise. It's hard to see how anybody like that doesn't get fired. Wait, they say, there's a 97% reelection rate. That means people are happy. No, it means people are trapped and that the two-party system is rigged to favor extreme candidates and incumbents. Their strongest argument for a raise is we haven't had a raise in 15 years, since 2009. And real median household income in America has increased 18% since 2009. Now, both of those statements are true, but take a look at the graph, okay? So is the fact that American median income was $68,000 in 2009. Pay for Congress was at $174,000, 155% above the median salary. Now, the new salary, the pay raise, if they pass it, would be $180,000. Still 123% higher than real median household income. So it's way out of whack. Well, another point they make is that, they have to pay for two homes, though, right, where they live and then D.C. They're just not telling you that they get reimbursed for D.C. living expenses and travel expenses to and from D.C. So why would I be for the pay raise? Okay, I'm for it with one condition. And here's what made me look at it differently. The 27th Amendment. It's the last amendment to the U.S. Constitution. It states that any law varying Congress's pay cannot be enacted until an election has intervened. Interesting side note. This amendment was first proposed with the original 10 amendments that became the Bill of Rights in 1789. It wasn't passed until 1992. That's why it's the last amendment so far. Why then? Well, people have forgotten about it, and then they were like in a fit of pique about Congress's low performance and giving themselves a raise, so they remembered this amendment and they wound up passing it. Now, before then, they could just give themselves a raise whenever they wanted, which is probably part of the reason they make so much more money than everybody else to begin with. So here's my pitch. You can have the raise, and it's going to take effect, not now, but after the next set of elections, which will be the midterms, as the Constitution demands. But here's my one condition. Between now and then, you do whatever helps all those who make less than you get the same raise. Find a way to reduce the cost of living so that people have more money in their pocket, or make changes that allow the economy to support more wages for the people who make less than you. How about that as a fair deal? You can get your raise, when you do the same thing for everybody else. In other words, earn it. Do your damn job. Now let's talk about this state of play, specifically how Elon Musk is delivering edicts to Congress. Joining me now, a man who's earned every cent he's ever made, Bill O'Reilly. Good to see you.
That's a true statement, Cuomo. I'm a guy who started from nothing, and here I am talking to you. I'm not sure that was worth it, but here we are.
Well, it's not nothing. So Elon Musk saying don't pass any bills until Trump is president. I've never heard of anything like that before. What do you make of the suggestion and what position Musk holds?
Do you think Mr. Musk is trying to curry favor with President Trump?
I think that he is exercising portfolio. I think he absolutely wants to please Mr. Trump. But I think that this is something else, which is being empowered by Trump to tell Congress what to do. We've never really heard of that before, have we?
No, I just think it's a play, that he knows when he says stuff like that most of the MAGA people, the people who voted for Donald Trump, will like it, and Donald Trump himself will like it, so he says it. And his job, I think, is going to be to try to cut down federal spending, and this would come under that. All of this doesn't really concern me that much. Number one, they'll get their short-term spending thing. They always do. They always will. It's not going to delay it. But there's a lot of garbage in the bill, as there always is. It has to come out, and it will. Johnson's a smart guy. Now, the intriguing question is the raise. Because these people are professionals. You say they make more than the median income. That's true, but all of them could make more in the private sector, I will submit to you. Almost all of them could do better working in a corporation or as an entrepreneur. So public service, they're taking less money. I don't begrudge them that. I don't think it's unreasonable to get a raise after you haven't gotten one since 2009. And I don't even like them, Cuomo. I don't even like them. And I'm saying that because I want to be a fair man.
I get it, but we, of course, both understand the argument against it. They are public servants who are serving a public that are not doing well. And, why would they do better when nobody else is?
They should get voted out then. Look, these Congress people don't have any power they don't have any power. What I resent, though, is the parties, both of them, telling their representatives and senators, you do it my way or I'm going to hurt you. That was started by Nancy Pelosi. Actually, didn't start it, but she really perfected it. Right. Lyndon Johnson started it, one of the most corrupt presidents and senators in the history of this country. The guy was off the chart corrupt. And I don't like that. I don't like the threats. It's always been there, to get along, you go along. But Pelosi was ferocious. That's why AOC got booted out of her position that she wanted on the committee, because she went up against Pelosi, and Pelosi worked the phone, so don't give her anything. So both parties are guilty of this. They don't want dissent. They don't want individual thinking. They want a herd, and they want to give as much power as they can to whoever is president.
Who has ever controlled the party the way Trump does with the stick, right? I mean, he's making that express threat right now. You vote for this spending package, you're going to get primaried.
Right. But Pelosi did that, too. And I'm not a whataboutism. I'm just saying it's not unusual. So right now in history, Donald Trump, he's in the top 5 coming into office with power. And I gave an interview to L'Express in Paris, where I laid out to the French public, big magazine over there, that underestimate Donald Trump at your peril. He is coming in with a ferocious wind at his back because the people want reform. They want the government to stop the massive, ridiculous spending, and Trump has promised to do that. I don't know if he can. He's got to put hundreds of billions into the military, has to. And then, as you pointed out, you got Social Security, you got Medicare, you got all of this stuff that's wildly out of control right now. Can't cut it, can't do it. You can raise the age, that will happen, but not for the people receiving it now. So Trump is coming in with a lot of power. He's going to wield it. There's no doubt in my mind. But on something like this, in 3 days, don't be surprised if they come to some kind of an agreement.
Pare it back, do a CR, get themselves through the break, and then you have the new Congress figure it out.
Yeah. They want to go home and have visions of sugar plums dancing in their heads. Sugar plums paid for by the federal government.
True. Look, taxpayers pay their salaries, no question about it, and they don't like hearing that they're going to get a raise. It is not unusual for someone to come in having made promises that are going to be hard to keep. But I do wonder how it will work with Trump, because he doesn't, the analysis of him never follows any norms. So we've already heard him say something that would have killed anybody else, which is, I'm going to lower prices. He gets elected and he says, lowering prices is very hard. Very hard. Very hard. Don't know how much you can do. It's very hard. And he's saying it before he even takes office. The idea that he has overpromised, how does he balance that with expectations?
He doesn't think he's overpromised. So he's going to flood the nation with oil, with gasoline. Prices of gasoline, retail, are going to go down. That means all the transportation mechanisms, like trucking your food to the grocery store, is going to go down. And he's relying on the retailers dropping their prices. That's what's going to be hard. So they don't want to drop their prices. Even if their overhead goes down, they want to keep the prices where they are. But Trump has got power. He can single out a grocery chain. He can do some heavy damage to retailers, and he will. So he's a maniac, and I use that word as an allegory, in the sense that he has got to close the border down. He will. He's got to get a ceasefire in Ukraine. He will. He's got to drop prices, retail for consumers. I think he will be partially successful in doing that, but that is the hardest among all of his MAGA promises.
I think the border has got to be his first at-bat, and if the Democrats are smart, they'll join hands with the Republicans. Well, why not take an easy one, especially when it's never been done?
Right.
If you get comprehensive immigration reform done, because the Democrats would be crazy to stand against it now. They know the issue.
But he's not going to get that done. He's not going to get the comprehensive done maybe until year 2. What he is going to do is tell the Mexican government, I'm sorry, I'm back. You put the army up on the northern border, the southern border. You stop the caravans. You crack down on the cartels, or we will. And Claudia Sheinbaum down there, the new president of Mexico, is going to go, okay. Because if she doesn't go, okay, talk about primarying somebody. Trump's not going to primary her. He'll break the Mexican economy.
But why not try to get the legislation done out of the box? Why not go for comprehensive? Why?
Because there's an amnesty part of that in the Democratic platform. And the Republicans are never going to go for the amnesty part of it, because one of his big promises was deportation of,
you don't think the Democrats may see it differently?
Unsavory people. No.
Democrats lost on that position.
The constituency, yeah, but they're hoping to rise again, and they're not going to alienate any minority group. And they feel that if they throw in with Trump, the Hispanics, like in California, are going to revolt against them. Look, I know these people inside and out. I know the games they play. You're absolutely right, by the way. I hate to say that, Cuomo, but it is Christmas. So I'm going to be benevolent. Both parties really not looking out for the folks. They're looking to assemble power. That's what they want. That's what it's all about. Now, Trump has to look out for the folks to some extent, because he made such vivid promises. And if he doesn't deliver on the promises, there's going to be anger, and his legacy, like Joe Biden. Joe Biden just killed his legacy in the last 2 weeks. by giving Iran $10 billion for no reason. Why, deuce, would you do that? They're the biggest sponsor of terrorism in the world. You're giving them $10 billion. And then goes out yesterday with the drones and goes, hey, who's putting the drones up? Don't give me, there's not a danger. What's the matter with you? And then the pardons, every crack dealer in the world is writing letters. I mean, Biden is slinking out of there. It's just amazing to watch. And believe me, Trump is watching that. He wants his legacy to catapult him into the upper echelons of presidents. He does.
Well, I do hope he can resist the sugar high of watching his guys go after the people who went after him, because that is something that could derail his progress. And I don't want to hear that they can do two things at once.
No,
they can't.
They're villains. Liz Cheney is the biggest villain in Republican circles there could possibly be.
Why? Because she's a traitor?
When the House of Representatives said no, because she was so hateful to Trump, and the voters of Wyoming booted her out, even though the Cheney family is one of the most powerful families in that state. But when the Republicans in Congress say she witness tampered, and then the press makes it out like this is some kind of revenge play, if Liz Cheney witness tampered, she deserves the FBI being all over her front lawn. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
And I think there's enough evidence to go in and investigate.
What they're calling witness tampering, I mean, I've only looked at what they're saying so far. Obviously, they haven't produced anything else. Not that that's some new standard. It's certainly not a legal standard of witness tampering. And there is no small irony.
Yes, it is.
You're going to go
violates
after
a
her
federal law.
Well, depends on what she did. And I don't know.
Look it up.
So far.
No. Cuomo, you're wrong.
I know what the law is.
And you're a lawyer.
I know I am. And I was a damn good one. What I'm saying is, we'll see.
If she did it.
We'll see.
If she tried to convince Cassidy Hutchinson, yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, you give her due process, certainly. But if she tried to convince Cassidy Hutchinson, all right, behind closed doors, which is the allegation, to testify a certain way in front of the J6 committee, then this woman violated federal law, period.
That's true.
And the FBI should be looking into that.
That's fine.
Well, they got to look into it. They got to investigate.
But that's not what I think they're going to do. I think they're going to do a lot more than that, and it's no small irony. You're going to go after her for talking to somebody in a way you think was inappropriate, but you don't, but the same people were okay with what Trump did after the election. I just think you let it go. You won.
What about
and start doing what matters to everybody else.
No, they're not going to let it go.
So we'll see if they can do it.
I wouldn't let it go.
I know. I believe that.
I wouldn't let it go.
I think
because
I think it's a weakness.
You can't have members of Congress at a high-profile position like J6, all right, trying to tamper with a witness, putting words in a witness's mouth when the witness has to testify.
Yeah, but we don't know that she.
You can't.
We don't know that she did that, and
but we need to have an investigation.
I know, but they're not going to solve it.
The press is objecting to the investigation.
I'm not objecting. I'm saying it's got to be proof.
Maybe they'll hire you and me. Maybe they'll hire you and me. But
we're a formidable team.
You can't prove anything unless you investigate it.
I know, but it's who should do it. Let the FBI do it. You don't have to do it in Congress. You do nothing well. Focus on the people's concerns. That's all I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Kash Patel is salivating to do it. All right?
Great. Let's see if he can find real proof, and we'll see. We'll see what they do. Bill O'Reilly, I got to jump.
Okay,
I appreciate you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Merry Christmas to you.
I've been fracking I've been fracking, Cuomo, to get a lot of coal to put in your stocking, and I almost there.
Well, I certainly deserve it. I certainly deserve it. Not for long.
Have a good one.
I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me on.
Take care. Thank you. You're a gift to the audience. 4 minutes and 5 seconds coming up. President Biden did nothing on the drones. I have written here that he finally weighed in. He didn't really weigh because there was no weight to it. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. So when is somebody going to come out and make sense of what everybody else seems to know? Independent journalist Michael Schellenberger is very big on government transparency. And he says he understands why they're not being straight with us. What does he know that we need to know? He looks very confident. Next. Into the drama. President Biden on drones.
There's nothing nefarious, apparently, but they're checking it all out. There's a lot of drones authorized to be up there. We're following them closely. So far, no sense of danger.
It's not about danger, aliens. It's about why there isn't danger. How do you know? Why can't he explain that? Independent journalist Michael Schellenberger says, listen, the government isn't being straight with us, and there's a reason. He's out with a new report on this on his Substack Public. It is a must subscribe. And he joins us now. First, all the best to you and the family for a blessed Christmas and New Year.
Happy holidays to you, Chris. Good to see you.
So, Mike, what do you know? Why do you think they're not being straight with us?
Well, look, I mean, I think in that one clip you just showed, Biden does something very similar that Defense Department spokesperson John Kirby did last week, which is that they say on the one hand, they say, we're looking into it. Then 3 days later, Kirby said, okay, we've looked into it, implying that they had looked into nearly 6,000 cases in about 2 or 3 days, which is very difficult to believe. I've been asking the FBI and the DOD and the DHS, FAA for the data. They won't share it with me. Biden similarly said, yeah, we looked into it. There's nothing to worry about, and we're still looking into it. So you sort of see these two things going on. They say they're looking into it, but they already looked into it. That's one of the many fishy things. The other one is that they'll sort of say, well, we know that there's nothing to worry about and there's no anomalies. And then other times they'll say, we know there's nothing to worry about, but we haven't figured out what all the drone incursions are. Chris, I think it's important for people to know that this has evolved from being a story about ordinary citizens seeing very unusually shaped drones or so-called drones, unidentified drones, over their homes in New Jersey to really a broader question of why have they been letting all these drone incursions occur over U.S. military bases? I mean, I didn't realize how prevalent this was. I mean, it's Langley for 17 days. This was written up in the Wall Street Journal last month. 17 days of being able to stop unidentified drones flying over Langley, but also Picatinny Arsenal, Naval Weapons Station Earl, 4 separate U.S. military bases in Britain, 1 military base in Germany, Camp Pendleton, one of the most important Marine Corps bases in Southern California, Air Force Plant 42 Skunk Works, where they developed the stealth bomber, where they're developing stealth fighters, Hill Air Force Base in Utah, the Minuteman silos in Northeast Colorado. I mean, that's just a partial list of all the places where they have had uncontrolled drone incursions. The idea that that's not something you would worry about is absurd. Controlling airspace has been one of the main goals of the Air Force since World War II. It's a pride of the Air Force that they control the airspace. And of course, the base commanders have been worried about this. They've been developing counter-drone technologies. It's not working. So I think, look, not to bury the lead a little bit here, but the U.S. military doesn't control U.S. airspace either over homes in New Jersey or over our most sensitive military installations.
So I had Crenshaw and Barra on the other night, which was very impressive to me because Republican and Democrat on the screen at the same time, both saying that they want to deal with this. Both of them came out at the classified session saying, look, I don't think that these are bad actors that are up there. And I think this is really about the government not having its game together in terms of who's supposed to deal with this. And maybe we have to do something as Congress to create standards and create funding for the kinds of detection systems that they don't have now and figure out what the system of hierarchy is. Does that make sense?
I mean, of course, I agree that they need to sort out who has the power to go after these drones. You do want some local and state authority to be able to go after them. But I mean, Chris, if we really thought that those drones were threatening people, then they would have scrambled fighter jets and there's all this concern about, the dangers of knocking them down. Look, I agree on the one hand. I don't think there's any evidence that the drones are being controlled by a foreign power. The people that have asserted that It's been a game of telephone where you've seen people sort of say the Iranians or the Chinese. It lacks both motive and mechanism to pull off an operation like that. If
the
they
loose
were
nuke
to do
stuff
it,
is no good too. And then
What's
your
that?
pal Rogan said it makes them, and the loose nukes thing was a dumb thing also. And then your pal Rogan says it's the best explanation he's heard, and it goes viral. This is the problem when government isn't transparent. You create a vacuum, and it gets filled with poo-poo.
Well, yeah, you said it. I mean, so I mean, they need to say more clearly. Now, I think there's a problem, but I think they need to say more clearly. There's no evidence of foreign adversary. There's no evidence that it's a U.S. agency. I mean, the government says it's not us, and in fact, I spent some time on this. There's multiple laws the government would be violating if they were to engage in some sort of drone experiment. You'd be violating the 1947 National Security Act. You'd be violating posse comitatus. You'd be violating the Fourth Amendment. You'd be violating all the rules we have against human experimentation since Tuskegee. So the chance that it's a U.S. government agency, I think, are close to zero. Is it a commercial actor like Google or Amazon? I mean, are you kidding me? It's so illegal, and they would destroy their ability these are very highly regulated companies. The idea that they would do this illegally is just absurd. So I think there's sort of two problems, which is one, they don't want to admit that they don't control the airspace. And so that's why they had these strenuous denials, which was weird last week. I mean, I was struck by it. Here we are on Thursday, Friday last week. Mayorkas and Kirby are both saying that there's no evidence of any drone incursions over U.S. military bases. I mean, it's been in the news for months. Yeah. So you have to kind of go, why? If you don't have to lie in politics, you shouldn't, you wouldn't. It makes your life more difficult. So they don't want to lie. Why are they lying? Well, clearly because they don't want to have any conversation about the drone incursions. It's obviously a sensitive issue, as it should be, because this is the first thing you learn. I mean, from high school history, after World War II, the United States had air dominance. And I mean, Chris, I don't need to tell you, I mean, we have so many geospatial entities in the United States, NORAD, NASA, Air Force, constantly looking at every aspect of the airspace from the ground all the way to the moon. I mean, it's really huge amounts of visual data. To say that we don't know what's going on with these drones raises a bunch of very awkward and uncomfortable questions that they clearly don't want to talk about.
But I think it would be the most refreshing thing. We'll see what happens in this new administration. Trump isn't exactly known for being a truth teller. But if we have the ability to start hearing, we don't know, more often, and we're working on it, and we'll let you know what we figure out as we do, I think that would be a huge improvement. Michael Schellenberger, I wish you the best as we head into these holidays. You are so important to the civic mission and to free agents and critical thinkers and independents, and I am proud to platform you and your work. Anytime I can help, I'm here. Thank you for being my friend and a friend of the show.
You too, Chris. Happy holidays.
You too. 4 minutes, 30 seconds. Up next, formal charges brought against the man who assassinated Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. Terrorism. First-degree murder in furtherance of terrorism. Why? Because he said that's what it was. He said, I had to do this. This is bad what's happening with these people in society. He was sending a message that is fundamentally political. And yet, tens of thousands of dollars have been raised for his defense. Why? A lot of you are asking. I have someone who has the answer. Next. The man accused of assassinating United Healthcare CEO is a terrorist, says New York authorities. The official charge, first-degree murder in furtherance of terrorism. The New York Police Department commissioner said anyone who supports the accused or his crimes...
There's no heroism in what Mangione did. This was a senseless act of violence. It was a cold and calculated crime that stole a life and put New Yorkers at risk. We don't celebrate murders, and we don't lionize the killing of anyone. And any attempt to rationalize this is vile, reckless, and offensive to our deeply held principles of justice.
Who's she talking about? People like this.
Honestly, this guy should run for president if he ever gets out of jail. He literally stood in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shot someone in broad daylight, and everybody loves him, not despite of, but because of that. Yeah. And I think that is a beautiful thing.
Beautiful thing? Everybody loves him? Jamie Peck does. That's who you were just listening to. She is also a spokesperson for a legal defense fund, which has raised, ready for this, more than $150,000. Remember, this guy doesn't need the money. The irony is his family made a fortune off of healthcare, nursing homes. But there's no question that on social media, there is a groundswell of support, especially among younger people, for this guy, but more importantly, for what he did. Why? Let's get the answer from one of them. Jamie Peck joins us now. Thank you for taking the opportunity.
Thank you for having me.
Help me understand, why is it a beautiful thing? Why do you support him assassinating another human being in cold blood?
So I was definitely joking a little bit, obviously drawing a comparison between what Donald Trump said about himself and the sort of explosion, this appetite, this excitement for the conversation that Luigi Mangione started. But I do think to call this an act of terrorism is an insult to the intelligence of the American people. Terrorism is something designed to strike fear into the hearts of non-combatant civilians, right? The general population. Nobody but a tiny class of CEOs has been made to live in fear by Luigi's actions, but nearly everybody knows what it's like to live in fear of having a necessary medical claim denied, the fear of having your life ruined or potentially ended by a stack of medical bills. And I think in a system with so much violence that's directed from the top down, it should come as no surprise when violence begins to boomerang back from the bottom up onto the 1%. Also, I would like to remind you on the subject of terrorism, nearly 3,000 Americans lost their lives on 9/11, right? This is the largest terrorist attack this country has ever seen. An estimated 190,000 people are murdered each year by our broken healthcare system. That is the equivalent of 52 9/11s worth of deaths every year. Every single week, another 9/11 happens. So I got to ask, who is the more prolific terrorist in this equation?
Well, first of all, as you may know, Jamie, terrorism is a specific legal standard, right? There's no question that Luigi did what he did in furtherance of a political agenda. He said it, okay? So I don't see this as a question of fact or law. It's about the policy behind it. What I don't understand, and you are somebody who in your positions is constantly trying to embrace the humanity of situations, right? I've been looking at why you support what you do with what's happening in the Middle East conflict. To me, this seems to be anathema to this. Nothing within a system gets changed by violence. How can you expect? Yeah, we're having a conversation, but we're not having the right one because the healthcare industry now has high ground because they've been victimized by this chooch. This isn't how we get insurance to be better, by putting a bullet in somebody's head. Why would you get behind that?
No, I've never advocated violence as a tactic for change coming from
You're celebrating the guy.
People that I organized with. This was a lone wolf act of violence on the part of Luigi Mangione, and it seems to have started a huge conversation among everybody about the violence, the death, and the murder caused by this broken healthcare system. Again, 9/11 every single week, indefinitely, until someone puts a stop to this madness. So we are here really to advocate for the thousands and thousands of people who have spoken up against an unjust and violent healthcare system, which is not a fact of nature.
Jamie, that's 100% fine. And by the way, it's not new, okay? People have been crusading against insurance companies, but there's no question we haven't gotten changes to the system that are necessary. No question. You're talking to one of them right now. I look this old because I am old, and I've been covering that system for over 25 years, and almost never positively. But You're raising money for this guy's legal defense. If that isn't supporting what he did, I don't know what would be. And again, as somebody who says what my interest is in seeing people treated humanely, you're raising money for exactly the opposite. I don't get the hypocrisy.
Well, I think everybody is entitled to a fair trial, including Luigi Mangione. And as we know,
he doesn't need your money.
Access to a fair trial is actually quite tiered based on how many resources a person has access to. What?
He's got access. You see who his lawyer is? She ain't working pro bono, I promise you that.
We have not heard yet as to whether or not Luigi is going to accept these funds. If he doesn't need them for whatever reason, they're going to be distributed to other people who are facing political charges. But I think in this country, money is a form of speech.
Listen, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying you can't do it, Jamie. I'm saying, why would you do it? You have the right to do it. I'm saying, why is it right? Why don't you take the money and give it to people who've gotten screwed by insurance companies?
I think I need to refocus once again onto the murder and the violence inherent in this system that so many people all across the political spectrum, across lines of political difference, conservatives, liberals, Democrats, and Republicans are all excited and energized to talk about this and to have this conversation.
Raise money for the action groups that go after the insurance companies. I'm with you. This is not about the insurance companies. That's my problem, Jamie. I had you on not for sport. I want you to understand that I don't think that the energy that you're putting towards backing this guy is getting us to a better place with the problems of the system. That's my point to you. Use the money you raised for the people who need it, not this guy.
Well, I believe we really need to treat the causes of problems rather than merely the symptoms. And I think if you want to know what kinds of tactics I do advocate for, I think we need a mass movement. Change comes from the bottom up,
but not a bunch of Luigis.
Top down. And I'm talking about mass resistance to medical debt. If everybody burns their medical bills in front of the health insurance company offices en masse, that's going to create change. And we're just trying to figure out how to use this moment of of popular excitement that has been touched off by, yes, a violent act that I would not advocate for as a tactic if it were up to me, but it happened. And we're trying to figure out how to ride that wave and move this conversation forward into mass action that can really make a difference.
Well, listen, I'm here for it. I always have been, but we're covering it. I would love for that to be the discussion. But as long as this guy is glamorized, it is a distraction. It is not a vehicle for focus. But I do appreciate you coming on to make the case, and I'm happy the audience got to hear where you're coming from because they're scratching their heads about this. Not about what's wrong with insurance, but how this was the solution. Thank you for coming on to make the case.
Thank you for having me.
All right. For 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Up next, what do you think? You have your say. 844-968-7720. Now, don't tell me this. Don't say you should have told her to F off or no. How you disagree matters. You can expose ideas weak and strong without being a jerk. That doesn't get us to a better place. Next. All right, Dusty. Who do you have?
Why do you say it like that? Like I'm Newman. Hello,
Newman. You're not Newman. He was funny. Don't hurt yourself rolling your eyes.
Rose from New York. Rose,
what's your question?
I am speechless that this woman was on your show and a man died, has 2 children and a wife, a family mourning him, and this woman is raising money. I am just beside myself that this is just mind-blowing. She's raising money to support this murderer.
First of all, she's raised over $150,000. And
I can't
the point
believe
is, it's not just her, Rose. You got to believe it. And you have to then not only believe it, but you then have to understand it. Because if you want to get people like that to a different place to the extent that you can't just write them off, right? Because they have answers. Oh, what about him and his family? Oh, yeah, what about all the families that his company ruined and all the claims they deny, and they do it just for money? And people who are sick and at their lowest, and they take advantage of them, and we know they do it, and nobody stops them. And at least now people are talking about it. They have answers. There is just something, to me, fundamentally hypocritical. Either you value humanity or you don't. And if you do, then none of this is ever justifiable and not as an avenue to change either. You never get to a better place with what they're doing right now. And getting to a better place is an admirable goal, especially when it comes to insurance. So I get it. I had her on because we need to understand it if you're going to do better than this. Next.
We're going to go to Kathy from Oregon.
Kathy, Oregon, question.
Yes. Hi, Chris. Native New Yorker here. I'm a little upset about the Congress raise. I'm a senior citizen who's got her Social Security raised 2.5%. And in layman's terms for me, that's $22. Mm-hmm. So
COLA.
Congress is raised.
COLA.
I mean, I think
they're killing you on the COLA adjustment, and they're probably going to take it away all the time. And that's probably in the coming. What do you think of my idea, though, Kathy? You want to raise, fine, but make it so that Kathy does just as well as you with your raise, or you don't get it.
All right,
I like it.
I just think senior citizens have been kicked to the curb.
Yep. The constituency demands respect, and I don't get it. You vote, you pay your taxes, you've raised families, you're everything that we want to be. Why aren't you getting that respect? You know why? Political advantage that is focused through parties instead of people. One more or no?
No more. But no more time. But I just go back to that, what your guest said when you asked her to put the money towards people that didn't have their medical expenses paid. And that completely threw her. It was like the concept she just couldn't get her head around. I was surprised at how that's suddenly where she lost her way.
I don't know. I don't know where her head is or where it isn't. It's not my concern. My concern is the industry needs reform. It will never happen by supporting this kind of behavior. And that's not being holier than thou. It's either you care about taking care of people or you don't. And you don't back this ass if that's what you want. That's all I'm saying. And I think it's a pretty simple point. I got to go, Dusty. I can't talk to you all night.
No, we'll be right back.